Okay, those are not jingle bells. Those are keys. Those are Steve's keys.
Well, that's all I had with me. That's all I had with me, Leah. We had to do something to get in the spirit.
So what key was that in?
That's
thank
bad.
you, Phil.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'm here all day.
Welcome, StewHeads, to the last episode of the year. I'm Leah.
And I'm Steve, and as we close out our first season here at Remnant Stew, by bringing you some of the more fascinating Christmas tradition celebrations here in America, as well as across the seas.
Do you have an appetite for the curious and downright bizarre? Then you've come to the right place, my friend. Pull up a chair and grab a spoon for today's intriguing serving of Remnant Stew.
You know, on the surface, Christmas is the time that Christians all the world over celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ.
Right. Yeah.
But, you know, it's really kind of a weird holiday. It really is a weird holiday. And we know that the 25th, the December 25th, is not Jesus' actual birthday.
Most likely not. Yeah, that's been established, I think.
And the church had this tendency to appropriate many pagan times of celebration and turn them into their own religious celebrations, and Christmas is the biggest one of those.
Right. Now, I think early Christians in Rome had to do that because it was illegal to be Christian at the time. So they just tagged on their celebration to when the Romans were already having another celebration to go unnoticed.
Right. And many people all over the world had midwinter celebrations at the winter solstice because, you know, in agrarian society where you're farming, winter is definitely a season of survival where you have to put back and just manage to make things last through the winter. So the winter solstice is that time where you're over the hill. The days are not getting shorter; they're now getting longer. And
well, you know, I lived in Seattle, Washington, for a number of years, and it's far enough north.
Right.
People always ask me, "Did the rain bother you?" No, I love rain. The rain did not bother me in Seattle, but they're far enough north that they get a big difference of daylight hours, summer to winter. And in the winter, the summer comes up about 8 in the morning and goes down at 4 in the afternoon, and it really messes with you. And so your favorite day of the year really is December 21st because you know the sun's not going any further away. After that, it's going to start coming back. Everybody in Seattle kind of goes, okay.
Right. So it's like a time of renewed hope and looking forward to this coming of spring. And so because of that, because so many cultures dealt with that, we have Christmas that brings in all of these traditions and celebrations from all over the world.
It's a great time.
It is a great time, and it really makes for some weird traditions that we're going to talk about. So how about you guys? Do you have any traditions that you do at home or had as a kid that pertain to Christmas?
I just remember as a kid on Christmas Eve, we'd go to my grandmother's house. She made chicken salad, and we would open her gifts that she had for us, for her at her house under her tree. So that was always kind of a fun tradition. We still have the chicken salad recipe in the family today.
How about you, Phil? Any?
Oh, just opened one gift on Christmas Eve.
Oh, that's crazy, man.
That was like the weirdest thing you could do.
That's blasphemy.
You're on the edge, aren't you?
Seriously.
And there is that thing when you get married, trying to figure out.
Oh, that's a big problem.
Right.
Young
what
couples
traditions
face.
Are you gonna pull in? Do you have the white lights or the colored lights?
Oh yeah, colored lights for sure.
White
lights are crazy. I mean, any
you
time
already
of the
have
year.
that right now. You just turn on your door light.
Really,
outside.
what's so
You got a
special?
white
Colored
light.
lights. You want colored lights?
Okay, because of that, I have more than one Christmas tree. I have more than one Christmas tree because I like the colored lights, but I like the white lights too.
Ours is a price tag to how many lights you're allowed to put on the house to mess with the electrical bill.
I could totally see you going overboard.
Yeah, maybe that's why our bill's so high in January. I don't know. I thought it was the heat.
Okay, so our oddity du jour today is what we're going to start with, and it's last-minute gifts. So if you are in a bind, and
I haven't bought anything yet. Maybe I better pay attention.
And we're
supposed to buy stuff.
Yeah, that gift-giving thing, and you're just in a frenzy especially for the weirdo in your family or in your life. This is a list for you. It's top 10 weird last-minute gifts.
All right, lay it on us, Leah.
Probably not going to help you, but number 10. The selfie toaster. Feed your body and narcissistic tendencies. These are actual things that you can buy, okay?
A selfie toaster, okay.
With a well-balanced breakfast made using this selfie toaster. Once you select the perfect selfie to upload, the toaster then etches your lovely mug onto the bread for a one-of-a-kind edible portrait.
So you've got your picture on the bread that you're eating.
Yes.
So you could truly be a Pop-Tart.
Oh, man.
Oh.
Bill, you are on fire.
This is available at thisiswhyi'mbroke.com.
Well, that's a great name right there. And by the way, if y'all would like to sponsor us, we'd love to talk about you more often.
For $75. And I have to tell you, we do record this in advance, and so prices may not be the same at Christmas. Okay, so number 9, moving right along. These are a great gift either to a friend that has chickens or to your own chickens to make them feel special and handy. Here you go. They're chicken arms.
What?
Chicken arms.
Chicken arms.
It's a pair.
This is not going to end well.
It's a pair of well-muscled plastic arms on a wire that you drape over your chicken and its pretty useless wings to make them look like an unnatural morph between a yard bird and a Ken doll.
That would scare off the dogs that are trying to kill the chickens all the time, or the foxes, or whatever else might be trying to get in there.
They are available on Etsy for $14.99.
Chicken gnomes.
Chicken arms, okay.
Okay, so this next one was very popular. It has thousands of 5-star reviews, okay? It's the Toil Light.
What?
The Toil Light.
Toil Light.
The toilet nightlight.
Oh, well, I can see that. Yes.
It fits any bowl in seconds. Toil Light is incredibly easy to install. It uses a flexible arm which takes the shape of any toilet bowl and stays in place. No useless suction cups. Motion-activated LED light comes in a variety of 8 colors that you can program.
Motion-activated, though, that makes me wonder a little bit. Okay, maybe when the door opens, is that enough to open?
I think it only works in the dark, and then motion-activated. So it
knows you're coming and it turns on.
That's right.
Well, that's a good thing.
And it's a Prime item on Amazon.com for $12.99.
Shoot.
This next one is for your pet. It is a dog dryer bag. This bag has little holes for the feet and head of your dog. Put doggo in this bag, then fill up the bag with air from your hair dryer, scarring your dog for life.
Somehow had the clothes dryer in mind, so you don't actually throw the dog in the clothes dryer.
No, let's not do that. But this bag
tried that in college once. But
this bag will poof up, and the air will flow around your dog and make it look like the Michelin Man kind of dog.
Okay.
And dry its fur.
Like one of those old-fashioned hair dryers that you put on your hair.
Yeah, that's right. It's like that, but this blows up. It's really funny looking. You can find it at uselessthingstobuy.com.
All right.
For a whopping $69.95.
It's like one of those things
sizes
that used to be in the airline catalogs.
Only for Chihuahuas.
Well, no. Okay, so the picture shows like a Labrador, and I thought about that. I didn't look at it close enough to see if it came in different sizes. I'm sure it probably does, because a Chihuahua would just get lost. Yeah. Right. It'd be blowing around in there. Okay, you guys, so 2020 was really a crazy year in which toilet paper was a big thing, right?
Right.
So if you want to be a little extra about it, you can buy someone unicorn toilet paper roll. Are you tired of boring white toilet paper? Do you want to make your restroom magical? Then this toilet paper roll is for you. This product features unicorns prancing over rainbows. The unicorns.
Well, that would give you a nice image while you're in the bathroom.
Well, and they're eco-friendly, and the colors won't smudge or harm your skin, so that's a good thing.
Safe for your septic tank?
I assume.
I would think so. That's so.
Well, each pack contains 2 rolls of 3-ply paper, so that's pretty.
3-ply is pretty good. That's got me right there.
Again, at uselessthingstobuy.com for $12.95.
They've become one of our favorites right there.
Oh, so this next one is also an Amazon product, or found on Amazon. For the manly man in your life, it is canned edible smoked rattlesnake.
Well, and why shouldn't you have that?
Why not, right? Well, and I'll tell you why not in a minute. Impress your friends and intimidate your frenemies with smoked rattlesnake. A can of smoked rattlesnake is a gift worth 1,000 words. It's also really tasty, but not according to the reviews. It was not well liked.
You have to develop a taste for it. It's got a little bite to it, I hear. Oh, sorry about that.
100% snake meat in a rich broth that you can eat straight out of the can, yum, or over a bit of wild rice or pasta if you want to get fancy. The meat also contains bones that need to be removed prior to eating.
Yeah, that probably would be a drawback right there, having to pull the snake bones out.
And it's on Amazon Prime for $24.99 a can. That's pretty pricey per pound. I don't think that's even
a pound of snake. How many snakes does it take to make a pound? I don't know.
I think it's just a few ounces of snake in this thing. I don't think it's an entire snake in the can. Okay, so this next one is my favorite, number 4. So for the artsy, crafty person in your life, it's a book. I love giving books.
Right.
So this is a book, Crafting with Cat Hair.
Well, finally there's a use for it.
Cute handicrafts to make with your cat. So it says, got fur balls? Are your favorite sweaters covered in cat hair? Do you love to make quirky and one-of-a-kind crafting projects, Steve? If so, then it's time to throw away your lint roller and curl up with your kitty. Crafting with cat hair shows readers how to transform stray clumps of fur into soft and adorable handicrafts.
You sweep it up in piles sometimes. You might as well find a use for it.
That's right. It's very eco-friendly.
Well, I would think so.
And it's on Amazon Prime for $9.71.
Crafting with cat hair. Okay.
So this next one comes from Japan. This is number 3. Japan has this weird fascination with Kit Kat bars.
Yeah.
Okay, and they make them in so many different flavors.
Right. Shapes.
And so this one is a limited edition wasabi Kit Kat. It features wafers covered in wasabi-flavored white chocolate.
That would be hot.
One of the most interesting flavors of Kit Kat, and it will probably make you tear up.
I would think.
Recommend it for wasabi lovers everywhere from omgjapan.com for $14.90 for 12 mini Kit Kat chocolate bars.
Well, you could give them out to your friends, 12 friends,
right.
or 12 people you don't want to be your friends any longer.
And they're green, like it's really odd looking.
Okay.
Okay, so number 2, and this is cool, and actually we've had these before. They're really good stocking stuffer. Mm-hmm. Miracle Fruities. It's the Miracle Fruit tablets. So the Miracle Fruit is a berry that's approximately the size of a cranberry,
right.
And it contains the glycoprotein miraculin, which modifies miraculin, and because it modifies taste perception. It's really a strange thing. So once miraculin binds to the taste buds, it makes things taste sweet. So lemons will taste like lemonade, and this says beer will taste like chocolate. I'm not sure I don't want my beer to taste like chocolate.
I'm not sure that's a good thing, but okay.
But it makes things sweet, and it's thanks to the temporary altered state of the taste receptors on your tongue. And then they go on to say Miracle Fruities can be enjoyed with friends and family, so make your own flavor-tripping parties.
Now, we need to order some of those for our Remnant Stew party, I think. We need to try those out.
And, well, you can find them on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
Okay, so number 1, this is the last one.
You have a drum roll.
This is for the time traveler in your life. On O'Reilly Auto Parts website, you can. Do you know what I'm going to say?
No.
No? Oh, you look like. Oh, I've heard of this.
I just know O'Reilly.
You can order a flux capacitor.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's got a working speed of 88 miles per hour and maximum power of 121 gigawatts. However, it needs plutonium and the stainless steel body of a 1981 to 83 DeLorean DMC-12 to properly function. And these are not included. They
you
say
find those on your own.
Time travel at your own risk. However, it is currently unavailable and not sure when it's going to be available.
Maybe it's available in the future, and they'll send one back to us.
That's right. There you go.
Well, that's very good.
So I hope that helps some of you out there looking for something to.
Those are some great items.
Right.
You know, there's a lot about Christmas that we do every year, but we don't always think, why do we do these things? Why is it? It's just part of the celebration, part of what's been passed down to us. And so we found some interesting information about Christmas traditions, Christmas celebrations. And so let's go into this a little bit. First of all, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, the Bible doesn't actually state when Jesus was born. The Gospels leave specific dates and even seasonal references of Jesus' birth out. But they mention shepherds tending their flocks when Jesus was born. This leads some to believe that he was more likely born in the spring than in the winter, as spring is the season when lambs tend to be born. Another Christmas story, not in the Bible, that Jesus was visited by the three kings. In the original writing, the wise men, or magi, came to see him sometime after he was born, but they're not numbered. It doesn't say exactly how many of these magi there were. Their names aren't even spelled out. Probably the number 3, though, came about, like the three wise men, because of the 3 gifts that were brought, the gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So some things that we have taken as certain haven't we're really not all that certain as far as told in the scriptures.
That's right. Okay, so have you ever wondered why Christmas is sometimes written as Xmas?
Xmas, Xmas, yeah.
Well, the X comes from the Greek letter chi or chai. It's
chi,
chi.
I think.
Chi?
Chi,
okay.
yeah, chi.
Okay. Which is the first letter of the Greek word Christos, which became Christ in English.
Right.
There's a common misconception, especially right now, I hear about it every year, that the word Xmas stems from a secular attempt to remove the religious tradition from Christmas
I've heard that too. It's not
by
right,
taking the Christ out of Christmas, but its use dates back to the 16th century. And I was brought up Catholic in seeing that the X represented Christ. Using Xmas in writing, however, is considered to be informal and is not allowed in journalism or formal writing. A mid-century book of etiquette discouraged the use of Xmas on Christmas cards.
Oh, yeah, so you want to write it all the way out. I can see how things that started off as a certain way, but then over time the meaning gets blurred.
Right.
Meanings of language is always changing, isn't it? But did you know it used to be illegal to have a Christmas dinner?
What?
Yeah, I know. That's one of our biggest traditions for sure. Talking about a war on Christmas, the Puritans in England and then later in the United States in the 17th century were not fans of the jolly celebration the holiday had started to become. They believed Christmas was frivolous, and so they canceled it. Literally. According to the United Kingdom's official site, Historical England, no one was allowed to go to a special church service or even prepare a holiday feast during this period. In the United States, the Pilgrims set up the same rule. In 1659, a law from the Massachusetts Bay Colony states, "Whosoever shall be found observing any such day as Christmas or the like, either by forbearing of labors, feasting, or in any other way, every person so offending shall pay of every such offense 5 shillings." I don't know how much 5 shillings was back in the day, but it sounds formidable, doesn't it?
I would save up for it just to have the feast.
Right. So they thought it was becoming too frivolous, and you should be more pious and more sincere, and not too.
There's Christian, doctrines,
right.
Denominations is the word I'm looking for. That don't.
That's true. That there
Christmas.
are some that don't. They're correct. You are correct. Now we can thank Prince Albert for Christmas trees. I love Christmas trees.
I do too. Thank you, Prince Albert.
Yeah, really, for sure. At least in the English-speaking world, those laws that were forbidding Christmas didn't last, and people went on their merry way decorating for Christmas. But Christmas trees didn't make their way into homes until the 19th century, when Queen Victoria's German husband, Prince Albert, suggested that they have one in Buckingham Palace. Although evergreens had been used for winter solstice celebrations since Roman times, German Christians are said to have been the first to use them for Christmas decorations, as early as the 15th century, says History.com. But when the British people saw a drawing of the beloved royal's Christmas celebration in the Illustrated London News in 1848, according to the BBC, they decided to adopt the German custom as well. In this illustration, it showed Queen Victoria and Prince Albert in front of their Christmas tree, and so, hey, we all want one of those too. So it actually had been celebrated longer in Germany, but to the English-speaking world, that was the first Christmas tree in 1848. Now, in the United States, the White House hadn't always had a Christmas tree. It wasn't until Benjamin Harrison came along. Actually, President Ulysses S. Grant signed the bill designated Christmas as a legal holiday for federal employees in Washington, D.C., and that was in June of 1870. Up until then, it wasn't a legal holiday. That information comes from Lindsay Chervinsky, a historian at the White House Historical Association. One of the things you might never know about the White House Christmas tree, it wasn't until nearly 2 decades later that a tree went up in the president's house. President Benjamin Harrison brought the first Christmas tree to the White House in 1889. Stravinsky says. The first family placed the tree in the second-floor oval room, which is now the yellow oval room, which they used as a parlor and a library. They decorated the tree with candles, toys, and ornaments for Harrison's grandchildren. You know, you do all kind of things for your grandchildren. I have 11 grandchildren, believe me, I know.
And that always freaks me out, thinking about back when they put candles on the tree.
I would imagine there were some casualties from time to time. Putting fire on a dead tree is not a good idea. Now, speaking of presidents, Harrison was the first to put one up in 1889, but a few years later, another president refused to put one up, and that was Teddy Roosevelt. But his young son had other ideas. According to legend, President Theodore Roosevelt was an avowed conservationist, and he forbid his family from bringing Christmas trees into the White House. During his presidency, Roosevelt created the U.S. Forest Service, and he protected 230 million acres of public land. Accordingly, he reportedly hated to kill trees just for decoration, but his children disagreed. The White House historian notes that his son, Archie, apparently smuggled a small tree into a closet in an upstairs sewing room and decorated it for the holiday. While Roosevelt is the only president believed to have opposed Christmas trees, they were not a regular part of the holiday tradition until the early 20th century.
So did he put the tree in his closet and then put candles on it?
I don't know if he put candles on it. I bet he put popcorn on it or chewing gum. You know, there's another story about the Roosevelt children sticking chewing gum all over the White House. Now, Leah, I don't know if you know, but some White House trees have actually been controversial. In 1899, William McKinley received letters to not have a tree in the White House. Now, I'm kind of thinking that, Theodore Roosevelt was his vice president. He might have stirred up some of these letters because he didn't like having the trees there. But the letters referred to killing a tree for a decoration as arboreal infanticide. Let that term sink in.
That's a little extreme, but okay.
Other critics opposed having a Christmas tree because it was historically a German tradition. There was still some bad blood between the Germans and Americans at that time. Now, Calvin Coolidge in 1923 was the first person to actually officiate the lighting of the national Christmas tree on the ellipse south of the White House. At 5 p.m. on Christmas Eve in 1923, Coolidge pressed a button to light more than 2,500 electric bulbs on the 60-foot-tall fir tree, which was cut in his native Vermont. He was the first chief executive to preside over a public celebration of Christmas. For some, that was blurring the lines between church and state.
Right.
Now, when Richard Nixon was in office, and we have a picture of this one, I think.
I think we do.
For our website. When he was in office in 1972, the administration received criticism when it chose the atomic symbol for peace for the tree topper instead of the traditional star. It had like multiple circles. And I think I remember it was a year or two later when there was the energy crisis, and people were even wondering whether they should have Christmas lights on their trees. Right. But he encouraged them. Well, we'll have fewer lights, but we'll still have lights on the tree. Now, in the 90s, there was an FBI agent named Gary Aldridge, and he wrote a book in 1998 called Unlimited Access. He claimed that the 1994 White House tree was decorated with condoms and drug paraphernalia.
Mudslinging much?
Now, the White House director, George Stephanopoulos, who was working at the time, he said that was a work of fiction, that it didn't really happen, but that the 1994 tree featured ornaments made by American art students and had a theme, the 12 Days of Christmas. Now, I can see art students using condoms and drug paraphernalia to make decorations, don't you?
I thought you were going to say I could see them using the 12 Days of Christmas artfully, but okay.
I can see that happening. Melania Trump in 2018 kind of caused a stir because she decorated all the White House Christmas trees were red. They were all bright red. They were spray painted red. The branches, the leaves, the needles, it was all red. Now, we have a picture of that too, and it's striking. I wouldn't say I would want one all the time, but it's certainly different looking. So there's some odd White House trivia about Christmas.
Okay, so our favorite thing to put on Christmas trees are lights. whether you like white lights or colored lights. But why the bright lights? Historians have an explanation for this bit of Christmas trimmings. They note that celebrating the season with light is just a natural response to the dark days of December, like we talked about earlier with the winter solstice traditions around the world. And if you happen to live in a region which midwinter brings striking darkness and cold and hunger, then the urge to have a celebration at the very heart of it to avoid going mad or falling into deep depression is very, very strong. Researcher Philip Shaw of, what is that, Leicester
University
told Life Science. So pagan solstice traditions of fire and light evolved into holiday celebrations involving candles. And I love Christmas candles.
Right.
In the Christian tradition, 4 candles are placed on an Advent wreath.
Right.
More on this later, with one lit each week in anticipation of Christmas. So in the Jewish faith, one candle on the menorah is lit every day of Hanukkah.
Right.
So, and you lived in Seattle.
Right, I remember the dark days there for sure.
So talking about candles, candles in the window is a Christmas tradition, and it started in colonial Williamsburg. According to colonial Williamsburg, the modern tradition of putting one candle in each window started in this Virginia town, not in colonial times, but in the 1930s.
Oh, that's more recent than I would have thought.
Right. Williamsburg historians put lit candles in the windows of the historic buildings that were open during Christmas, and tourists liked the golden glow so much that they started the tradition in their own homes.
Oh, that looks nice, yeah.
Electric candles then became popular in order to avoid the fire hazard of real ones. I remember my grandmother doing this.
Right.
She had candles in all of her windows at Christmas time.
Oh, you know what? We just bought at our house. We bought candles that have a remote control. They're battery operated, and they look like they flicker. There's a little thing looks like a flame, and it kind of waves back and forth. And they're really cool. I like them a lot.
Okay, so now moving on to this next decoration of wreaths. Did you know that wreaths have secret symbolism? Many theories exist, and we don't really know this for sure, but many theories exist as to why we hang wreaths at Christmas time, and all likely have some parts to play in the tradition. In ancient Greece and Rome, laurel wreaths, of course, were given to victors of athletic competitions, and were also marks of honor according to time. In pagan solstice celebrations, the symbol of the circle may have represented the circle of life and hopeful rebirth of spring.
Right.
Christians also associate the wreath with Jesus' crown of thorns, reports the New York Times, and they later adapted the wreath for Advent. And, of course, the bringing in of the evergreens was also one of those ways to combat those dark days and to remember that spring was around the corner and things were going to be green again.
Now, where I grew up in the Texas Hill Country, we would always go out and cut a cedar tree, and I just never can forget how great it smelled. You bring that cedar tree into the house, just a small cedar tree that would just, liven up the whole place, by the way. So I still love the smell of cedar today for that reason. Well, now here's one that I had never heard of before. It actually comes out of Eastern Europe. Now, my wife's family is all Hungarian, but she hadn't heard of this one either. So in parts of Eastern Europe, it's customary to keep a live fish in your bathtub in preparation for the Christmas Eve feast. Why? Some suggest it's because the carp is one of the oldest fish species and indispensable to the fishing industry in this part of Europe. Though mention of carp dishes can be found as far back as the 7th century, it wasn't until the 19th century that it became widespread, as fish was a luxury and most common folk ate predominantly non-meat meals. So you kept a fish in the bathtub for your Christmas dinner. That was a big special occasion.
Oh, I have questions. Like,
right.
What if you wanted to take a shower? What if you, and so apparently, okay. So I was picturing when you first talked about, I was picturing like a goldfish, but apparently this is the feast.
This is going to be the dinner, and I've seen carp before, and they're an incredibly bony fish.
Yeah,
so,
not the best tasting.
Yeah, it's a lot of work to get to the meat out of a carp, I think. So.
Okay.
So let's move on to something a little more fun. Candy canes. I love candy canes.
Yes.
And, the peppermint candies, and, that's one of my favorite go-tos. The first known candy cane was made in 1670, allegedly by a German choir master to help children endure lengthy nativity services. They were white and supposedly modeled after the shepherd's canes, although like many religious-themed myths surrounding the origin of candy canes, there's no evidence of this. The candy canes made its way to America in 1847 when a German immigrant reportedly decorated the tree in his Ohio home with the iconic candy. According to the National Confectioners Association, or the NCA, we'll be referring to them as for the rest of this little section, candy canes started being locally produced by Bob McCormick of Albany, Georgia, in the 1920s. 30 years later, his brother-in-law invented a machine to mass produce them. The NCA says today 90% of candy canes are sold between Thanksgiving and Christmas and are the number one selling non-chocolate candy in December. Love candy canes, don't you?
I buy them.
Yeah, I do too. I buy them. Yeah, and I'll even keep them on into January and February sometimes.
They last long years.
Yes, they do.
Years? Do you recycle them?
Oh, you know what? I think I have
ornaments and bring them back.
If you can't get through an entire box on a Christmas, you got next year.
Yeah, you just put it back in the attic, and next year there you go. It's already there. I have actually done that
They're
too.
wrapped.
Just
They're still wrapped.
Just buy you some new. I'll buy you some new ones, Phil.
It was like
Don't worry, they get new ones. They get buddies.
Like Seinfeld said about Pop-Tarts, they can't go stale because they were never fresh. So.
That's right.
Well, now, another tradition has to do with the Nutcracker. You're familiar with that beautiful ballet, the Nutcracker, right? Well, originally they were good luck charms. Maybe your grandmother collected traditional holiday nutcrackers, which look like soldiers. And everyone knows the ballet, in which one of these man-shaped gadgets becomes human on Christmas Eve. But how did nutcrackers come to be associated with the holiday? One of the Christmas traditions from around the world we follow today. A tool to open nuts is a necessity, and according to the Leavenworth Nutcracker Museum in Washington State, now I have actually been there, to be honest with you. I've been to the Leavenworth. Leavenworth is in the Cascade Mountains, about 100 miles east of Seattle. And it's a beautiful little German town, German settled immigrant town.
See,
and
I knew nutcrackers were German.
Right.
I knew they had to be
and
German.
they picked up, they really celebrate their German heritage. They have a huge Christmas festival there in Leavenworth, including the Leavenworth Nutcracker Museum. Wood carvers in Europe were creating them in the shape of people by the 15th century. According to the German Christmas Museum, the Weihnachts Museum in Rottenburg, Germany, the Nutcracker's association with Christmas may be due to needing the gadget to crack nuts, a common fall treat for the baking at this time of year. German legend has it, says the BBC, that the traditional nutcracker brought good luck. Carving kings, soldiers, or policemen also had the hidden political meaning, suggests the Weihnachts Museum, to mock those in authority. Well, that's been going on for a long time, hasn't it?
Those Germans.
In the 19th century, Tchaikovsky's Christmas ballet furthered interest in the decorative item, and they started being mass-produced in 1872 by the father of the Nutcracker, German Wilhelm Fuchner, Fuchtner. Don't look at me like that.
We're just going to keep on going.
About 30 pieces are needed to make a wooden nutcracker, the Weihnacht Museum says. Another family who originally made the nutcracker in Germany, the Steinbocks, still makes them for holiday gifts today. That needs to be on our list of last-minute items, a nutcracker from the Steinbocks.
And you know what? That's a tradition I didn't think about. When I was young, we always had... we had that Christmas candy that was gorgeous and morphed into one big, giant piece of Christmas candy set out. But then we also always had a bowl of mixed nuts that you had to crack. They were all in their shells.
Absolutely.
Very Christmassy.
We had pecan trees where I grew up, and so we spent a lot of the fall cracking pecans for sure. Well, now let's go to Santa Claus.
Santa Claus,
yeah. Now, you might think you learned the truth about Santa Claus as a child. Oh, I can remember that. But you probably don't know everything about his origin story. Santa Claus wasn't always red-suited, white-bearded man he is today. As explained in National Geographic, St. Nicholas was a real person who lived in Greece in the 4th century, who is known for gift-giving and whose feast day happens to be on December the 6th. Dutch children have long cheered the annual coming of Sinterklaas, also known as St. Nicholas, who sports a crimson mitre and rolls into town on a steamboat filled with presents in mid-November. Now, I love the idea of Santa Claus coming in on a steamboat.
Right.
Then he rides around on his mighty white steed, Amerigo, and distributes gifts. Over time, Santa Claus's images was transmuted into Santa's, and Amerigo became a sled with flying reindeer.
Well, I can see that.
Yeah.
And people later on are going to go, do you know that those Americans had this whole reindeer thing going on? Okay, so did you know that the Santa that we picture today is actually because of commercialism?
I can imagine that for sure.
Right. It was greatly influenced by Coca-Cola.
Okay.
Coca-Cola did not obviously create the legend of Santa Claus, but its advertising did play a big role in shaping the jolly character we know today.
And now they moved on to polar bears.
Polar bears, yeah.
I love the polar bears. Okay, don't diss the polar bears.
Not dissing the polar bear. They just got rid of Santa Claus.
We are polar bear friendly here, but anyway, back to our Santa Claus story.
Before 1931, there were many different depictions of Santa Claus around the world, including a tall, gaunt man and an elf. There was even a scary Claus, and we're going to talk later about that. But in 1931, Coca-Cola commissioned an artist to paint Santa for Christmas advertisements. Those paintings established Santa as a warm, happy character with human features, including rosy cheeks, white beard, twinkling eyes, and laughter lines. And if that sounds familiar, it's because he drew inspiration from an 1822 poem by Clement Clark Moore called A Visit from St. Nicholas, or as we know it, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas.
Right.
And that's one of our most cherished family traditions that we do with our kids now, is that my father-in-law used to always come over to our house, or we would go to his house in later years, and he would read that to our kids. Well,
That's fun.
gone. He's been gone for 2 years.
Wow.
And he was 93 when he passed away, so we knew that was going to happen
It
eventually.
left a hole, didn't it? Yeah.
Right, but what we did before then is we bought a book that the book was The Night Before Christmas, but it was specially made so that it could record.
Nice.
And it recorded his voice. So now our tradition is that we open that book and listen to his voice tell us the story.
Well, now the name was popularized by Washington Irving. There's been mentions of Santa Claus in the American press dating back to 1773, but Washington Irving is generally considered the first man to significantly transform the Dutch Sinterklaas into Santa Claus. In his book, History of New York, he spoofed the gift-giving legend, and he portrayed Santa Claus as a pipe-smoking sailor in a green coat.
Well, he did have a steamboat.
A steamboat, right, and a pipe. Yeah, it kind of sounds like Popeye in a way, but anyway. Then inspired, at least in part, by Santa Claus and the history of St. Nicholas, as you mentioned, author Clement Clark Moore wrote a poem titled A Visit from St. Nicholas, or The Night Before Christmas. From this work came much of what we now associate with Santa Claus, the flying reindeer, his ample gut, and his jolly laughter. Although the poem mentions Santa was dressed in fur, nowhere does it mention the fur was red. And as you mentioned, that tradition comes from 19th century illustrator Thomas Nast, who was largely responsible for popularizing our popular image of Santa, along with the Coca-Cola advertising beginning in 1931. Now, I can remember seeing Santa Claus on cigarette cartons,
Right.
Santa lighting up a smoke,
I remember that too.
Back in the
It was
early
a different
60s.
time.
Yeah, for sure. Now, did you know Santa has his own zip code?
No.
Every year, thousands of kids write letters to Santa and let him know what their wish list is. Canadians set up a special zip code for Santa so that all letters have somewhere to go. To keep things festive, the zip code is HOHOHO. Canadians use a combination of letters and numbers in their zip codes. How about Christmas stockings, hanging up the Christmas stocking? Where did that come from? Well, there's an old story dating back to the 3rd century Byzantine Empire, which is today Turkey, suggests that St. Nicholas would throw coins down the chimneys of poor women who couldn't afford dowries. The legend continues that the money would land in stockings that were hung over the fire to dry. So that's why we hang out stockings by the fireplace.
Right. I wouldn't want any Christmas candy in some old sock, though.
No.
In some old sock. But.
Yeah, probably not. Now, Christmas cards. I can remember people sending dozens and dozens of Christmas cards and receiving quite a few. It's kind of faded a little bit, I think, in the digital age a little bit. You still get a few from some people, but not as popular as it once was. But unlike other holiday traditions with somewhat nebulous origins, the Christmas card has a start date, 1843. In that year, Victoria and Albert Museum founder Henry Cole had cards printed to send to friends as a time-saving measure to answer all of his mail around the holidays. And the idea caught on. As Victorian traditions tended to do, the custom of sending Christmas cards made its way to the United States and eventually took off when Hallmark created its first Christmas cards in 1915. Today, according to the company, 1.3 billion cards are sent each year in the United States, with more than 2,000 designs by Hallmark alone.
I love to send Christmas cards, but it is one of those things that if I am really, really busy, then it'll fall off my to-do list.
Falls by the wayside. It does.
Right. It just depends on the year, if I'm on top of things or if I'm not.
It is nice to get them, though, I will say. They do look nice when you hang them up.
But it's interesting that a lot of our holiday traditions that we do kind of started around the Victorian era. And when we think of Christmas, we think of the Victorian.
For sure.
And so,
Christmas Carol,
Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol really added to that.
Right.
So,
what about our favorite Christmas song? What's your favorite Christmas song, Phil? I ask him off the cuff. Put him on the spot.
Give me a minute.
Okay, I'll come back to you. It may not be the one that was the most requested Christmas song in 2019. Amazon uses virtual assistant Alexa to gather lots of information about the way we, or at least those who use the device, celebrate Christmas in America today. The most popular requested song in 2019 was Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas Is You.
See, that's not my favorite, but it's not so bad either. Okay, so we go through the Christmas holiday trying very, very hard. We have this thing going, this contest of trying to avoid this song, Last Christmas I Gave You My Heart.
Oh, yeah.
And seeing who loses is I heard it in a store today. That's it. I'm out. And so the last person standing, So that's my least favorite. So let's just say that.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of Christmas songs, Jingle Bells was actually not originally a Christmas song. Going back to old school holiday songs, one of the most famous Christmas tunes was actually written for Thanksgiving. James Lord Pierpoint originally titled the song One Horse Open Sleigh, and he performed it at his church's Thanksgiving service in the mid-19th century. Then in 1859, the song was republished under the name Jingle Bells. And sort of, I guess maybe some places it's not as cold on Thanksgiving. We have some awfully hot Thanksgivings where we live
down
here
in Texas.
Right,
in Texas.
But,
we go swimming sometimes on Thanksgiving.
Absolutely.
Iced tea still is a thing.
Exactly. But by Christmas, it's usually cooler. The plants you display, got to be careful with this, they can actually be poisonous.
I knew about this.
Yeah. Contrary to popular belief, poinsettias probably aren't all that toxic. One review of the Western Journal of Emergency Medicine found that only about 3% of children who eat it will develop any symptoms, and even animals are unlikely to have any health effects. Your bigger concern is holly, the holly berries. They look innocent enough to kids, but just 5 berries could lead to vomiting and abdominal cramping to children because they contain a compound called saponin. That sounds nasty, just reading it and spelling it out, saponin. So be careful with the holly berries.
Yeah, and don't quote me on this because I'm not sure of it, but I also think mistletoe is poisonous.
It could be.
So don't eat the mistletoe
It's
either.
not good for the tree, I know that. It can kill the tree.
Okay, so going across the seas to other countries, well, this first one is thought to be German, but it's probably more American, and it's the Christmas pickle. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard a little bit about this, yeah.
Okay, so a lesser-known Christmas tradition for some Americans is a decoration in the shape of a pickle is hidden on the Christmas tree, with the finder receiving either a reward or good fortune for the following year. And I know people that do this. It was thought to have originated in Germany, but the theory has since been discounted. It is now thought to be a German-American tradition created in the late 19th century. Okay, so this is interesting, though. One suggested origin has been that the tradition came from Camp Sumter during the American Civil War. The Bavarian-born Private John C. Lower had enlisted in the 103rd Pennsylvania Infantry, but was captured in April 1864 and was taken to the prison camp. As the story is told, on Christmas Eve, he begged a guard for a pickle. while starving. So I don't know if he just had a hankering for a pickle.
Give me at least a pickle. Come on, I'm starving over here.
But maybe the guard was eating a pickle, and so the guard provided the pickle, which Lower later credited for saving his life. And after returning to his family, he began the tradition of hiding a pickle on their Christmas tree each year.
Well, no, that's a good story, and I can see how that could be.
Well, this next one, another possible origin, is kind of a little stranger. It's a Victorian-era tale of St. Nicholas saving 2 Spanish children who were trapped in a barrel of pickles by an innkeeper, which actually derives from a much more gruesome medieval legend involving a cannibalistic butcher butchering and storing a group of boys in a barrel, and St. Nicholas miraculously restoring and resurrecting them.
Oh, trying to pickle them for sure. Wow.
Saved from
I like the Civil War story better. The kindly guard gave him a pickle, and then he started the tradition. I like that one better. But yeah, that's pretty bad. Well, now, back to the British again. They have a tradition of lighting their desserts on fire at Christmas.
Because why not?
Well, why not? It's dark in England as well.
It's dark in winter,
it's very dark. Yeah, you need a little warm it up, and it's cold also. It can be cold.
It's like a candle. It brings Okay, so let's just light the food on fire.
Yeah. British Christmas food is a whole category unto itself. Pudding is not the traditional custard dessert it is in America. Yorkshire pudding, which consists of pancake batter, are shaped into small bowls to make the perfect vessel for copious amounts of gravy. So if you're asking for Yorkshire pudding, it's going to be like a pancake with gravy in it. So that's not necessarily what you were thinking. But it does go well with the Christmas turkey. Mince pies don't actually contain meat anymore. Rather, they are made up of spiced fruit and encased in sugary pastry. After Christmas dinner, someone gets out the Christmas pudding, a boiled fruitcake doused in brandy.
Okay, wait. How do you boil a cake? Okay. I don't know.
Well,
I thought fruitcakes were indestructible.
Well, so you could boil it.
I guess you could boil.
So you could boil it. The tradition is to set fire to the brandy to heat it up, which can also be quite alarming.
And set off the alarms. A Christmas pudding is very important to Brits. I know about the stir-up Sunday, it started back in Victorian times. It's a custom that everyone in the house must take a turn at stirring the Christmas pudding while it's being prepared, and they make a wish when they do it. They also would add charms to the pudding. And the charms, so it's interesting that you would find an object in your food.
Right.
The charms would bring luck if you found them in your portion on Christmas Day.
Is that where King's Cake came from?
You know what? That's what I was thinking. Right. Of Mardi Gras, you have the baby in there.
The baby in there, yeah.
And others.
I always wondered about
and others. So it's not, it's not completely, totally British,
weird.
But well, it is totally weird. But it, we're weird too. So
bring it.
Let's see. The traditional Lucky Charms were a silver coin for wealth, a wishbone for luck, because you want a wishbone in your cake,
right,
a thimble for thrift, a ring for marriage, and an anchor for safe harbor. And biting down on such a thing could surely cause a trip to the dentist with a cracked tooth, so we don't recommend this.
Yeah, you could choke on your wishbone. I would think that would not be a fun way to have Christmas Eve.
I wish it comes out.
This next one, I don't know that word. What's that word?
Okay, so this is one of my favorites.
You need to spell the word out.
Oh, it's okay. So it's Jola. Yola. It's pronounced Yola. Boka, Buka, and then Flod, flood.
It's all one word, though.
Yola Buka flood. It's the Icelandic Christmas book flood. That's how it translates. Yule book flood.
Oh, okay.
So it's an Icelandic tradition, and it's a fairly recent one, of exchanging gifts of books on Christmas Eve.
I like that.
This tradition began during World War II, once Iceland had gained its independence from Denmark
right.
in 1944. Paper was one of the few commodities not rationed during the war, so Icelanders shared their love of books even more as other types of gifts were in short supply. This increase in giving books as presents reinforced Iceland's culture as a nation of bookaholics.
Right.
So every year since 1944, the Icelandic book trade has published a catalog. I'm not even going to pronounce the name of it, but it means book bulletin in English, that is sent to every household in the country in mid-November. People use the catalog to order books to give to friends and family for Christmas. And during the festive season, gifts are opened on on December 24th, so on Christmas Eve. And by tradition, everyone reads the books they've been given straight away, often while drinking hot chocolate or a traditional alcohol-free Christmas ale called Yola Blonde.
Yola Blonde.
And we actually, my family learned about this, funnily enough, when Tori was in your class. My daughter was in your class and did a
I remember that, yeah.
Right, did a project on it. And so we've celebrated it every year. And so we get together, and we don't do it on Christmas Eve. We do it with extended family, and we get together at a restaurant or whatever, and we exchange books.
Well, Iceland is definitely on my bucket list. I have not been there, but I'd love to go. And, the book, I have heard that there was, I don't know if it's any more the case, but for a long time they would not have any television on one night a week, and encouraged everybody to read on that night, like a Thursday night. No television on Thursday night. We're going to read tonight, the whole country.
Not a bad idea. Okay, so Christmas can be creepy. And has a lot of different things. So Befana, the Italian Christmas witch. So while Italians have Old Saint Nick, they also have Befana.
Oh, okay.
From culturetrip.com, Befana is said to be an old woman, and many refer to her as a witch who visits all the children in Italy on the eve of the Epiphany, celebrated on January 6th. Right. So it's a Christmas time thing, not necessarily a Christmas Day thing. She fills the children's stockings full of either candy or coal, depending on their behavior the year before. Sound familiar? Mm-hmm. So Befana is portrayed as a hooded old hag, similar to the type of witches we see during Halloween, covered in soot because she comes through the chimney.
I see.
And she rides a broom. She carries a bag full of candy and is said to be the best housekeeper in all the land. Due to I need her to come to my house, right? Due to her habit of sweeping the houses of the children that she visits before she leaves. So I totally need her to come to my house.
Oh my goodness.
Children are told that she will give them a swift thump from her broomstick if they try to see her when she arrives.
Oh yeah, you don't want that.
But the tradition could just be to keep kids in their beds, of course. Yeah. So to be gracious and thankful hosts, families leave her a glass of wine and a bit of their traditional local food to refuel her for the rest of her journey. So she's got a lot of Santa Claus going on there.
She's got a better deal, though, getting some Italian wine.
Right. So Santa gets fat and jolly from all the sweets family leaves for him, and Befana drunkenly rides her broom from house to house, leaving candy.
Wait, I've been to this house twice.
It's the good wine. She just keeps coming back. But it's the cleanest house. So if you have the best wine, it's the cleanest house.
She's been that one 2 or 3 times, I think.
Okay, so I think a lot of people have heard of Krampus
or
I've heard
Krampus,
of Krampus, right? So according to Wikipedia, in Central European folklore, Krampus is a horned anthropomorphic figure described as half goat and half demon.
Right.
Merry Christmas. So during the Christmas season, punishes kids who have misbehaved. And you're going to get your kids to go to sleep after that.
Right. See, a lot of these are kids behave, or it's a parental tool is what it is. Trickery.
It's a great Yuletide story.
Right. Yes.
So he contrasts
the night before Christmas, and here comes Krampus.
Hush. So he's a contrast to St. Nicholas, who rewards the well-behaved children with gifts. Krampus is one of the companions of St. Nicholas in several regions, including Austria, Bavaria, Croatia, Hungary, and northern Italy. The origin of the figure is unclear. Some folklorists and anthropologists have postulated that it has pre-Christian origins. But in traditional parades and in such events, young men dressed as Krampus participate. Such events occur annually in the most alpine towns. Mm-hmm. And he's also featured on a lot of holiday greeting cards. Because, again, Merry Christmas.
Merry Krampus.
Okay, so Ukrainian Christmas tree spiders. Do you remember tinsel?
Yeah.
Okay, it's kind of gone away. I think it has, at least in my house.
Big strands of garland, yeah.
Right, and I had never heard of this tradition beforehand, but this is apparently explains the origin of tinsel on the Christmas trees. And I think tinsel went away because it really destroys vacuum cleaners.
Yeah,
it's really a mess.
I knew somebody who had a bird who had gotten into the tinsel, and it didn't end well for the bird.
So the legend of the Christmas spider is an Eastern European folktale which explains the origin of tinsel. It is most prevalent in western Ukraine, where small ornaments in the shape of a spider are traditionally a part of the Christmas decorations. The story, according to Wikipedia, goes that a poor but hard-working widow once lived in a small hut with her children. One summer day, a pine cone fell on the earthen floor of the hut and took root. The widow's children cared for the tree. They were very excited at the prospect.
A tree in the house, for sure, yeah.
Right. Well, they were excited at the prospect of having a Christmas tree by winter.
Oh, okay.
So the tree grew, but when Christmas Eve arrived, they couldn't afford to decorate it. The children sadly went to bed and fell asleep, and early the next morning they woke up and saw the tree covered with cobwebs.
Cobwebs, okay.
And when they opened the windows, the first rays of the sunlight touched the webs and turned them into gold and silver.
Nice.
The widow and her children were overjoyed, and from then on, they never lived in poverty. This sounds like fairy tale. They never lived in poverty again. So it said that tinsel was created to mimic the spider webs on the widow's tree,
I'd never heard that story before.
Happily ever after.
That's a nice story. The spider helped them out.
So, speaking, going back to Christmas pudding,
okay.
In Slovakia, this is so weird.
I'm not laughing at Slovakia. I'm laughing at
the tradition.
This tradition. Yeah.
There's a tradition where the oldest man in the house gets to take a spoonful of pudding and throw it up on the ceiling.
Okay.
So not vomit it on the ceiling, but throw it with a spoon.
Sling the spoonful of it. Yeah. Sling it up there.
So he yeets it onto the ceiling. The more pudding that sticks, the luckier he'll be in the coming year. But that's if he lives after his wife catches him doing that.
Yeah, you were wondering earlier, Phil, if that's how texturing started.
Just sling it up there.
Get it on the drywall, right?
And here's our last one. This is a really strange one, and I think it's pronounced Mari Lwyd. This is a wassailing tradition coming from Wales. And so wassailing being what we would call caroling today, where you go from house to house singing in exchange for refreshment.
Right.
So the tradition entails the use of a hobby horse, which is made from a horse's skull, mounted on a pole and carried by an individual hidden under a sackcloth. It's often decorated with colorful ribbons and bells. And the picture we have that we'll put on our social media has Christmas ornaments placed inside the eye sockets.
All right.
It's really disconcerting. And it comes to your house knocking on your door.
I see.
So Mari Lwyd is a pre-Christian practice. And in fact, some Welsh regions choose to parade their horse skulls through towns for other holidays as well, such as Halloween.
We had a different episode of Halloween.
I think you mentioned it on the Halloween episode. Or May Day, which...
Yeah.
Why May Day, but okay.
Well, they've got the horse skull laying around. They might as well use it for other holidays, for sure.
That's right. Let's just use it.
Arbor Day, let's do that one, too.
Happy birthday. Here
All right,
we go.
Here's your horse.
Anyway, though the tradition's exact origins are murky, the image of a white horse has, of course, been a powerful symbol in the United Kingdom for at least 3,000 years.
Right.
So the way this works is this horse skull figure will knock on your door and then recite or sing a rhyme to you about wanting to get inside your home. You then have to answer back, also in rhyme, with excuses of why it can't come in.
Right.
And it goes back and forth until one of you can't think of a reply. So it's like a rap battle.
So you got to rap back and forth with this horse's skull until one of you can't come up with a line, and then that's the winner. So
if it's the Mari Lwyd that can't come up with anything, they leave. But if you can't think of a retort, then you have to let it in and provide refreshments to the skeletal horse and his entourage.
Oh, okay, that's pretty nice. The Welsh are very known for singing in all kind of occasions, I think, for sure. And that's a really good one. Well, coming to the end of our holiday show here, it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes, and this I love quotes. I'm always looking for quotes. This was kind of an unusual quote, though. It came from a television show about a little over 20 years ago called Dharma and Greg. You remember that show,
I do
Dharma
remember
and Greg? That. Dharma and Greg started in 1997. The show was about a young married couple. Dharma was raised by very liberal hippie parents, and Greg was raised by very stoic conservative parents. In the holiday episode, Dharma's parents say to Greg's father, "Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, or whatever it is you believe in." And to that, Greg's father says, "Thank you. And Happy New Year to you. That is, if you people believe in calendars. A great line. Well, now the time has come for our trivia challenge. Well, now we have winners for our past 2 trivia challenges. The first one, this was the question, in addition to being an artist, this was on our Ripley show. Ripley was a good athlete. In 1925, he wrote a handbook about a sport which was popular at the time. In fact, the following year, 1926, he was the New York State champion at this sport. Name the sport. Well, our winner, one of our favorite listeners, Nellie Clausen.
Yay!
Hey, Nellie.
Yay!
She posted that while living at the New York Athletic Club, Ripley found a new athletic passion and stress reliever, handball. As the sport became increasingly popular in New York City, Ripley played dozens of tournaments, and he even earned a championship title. So that's correct. Ripley was the handball champion of the state of New York in 1926. And
Good job, Nellie.
He also wrote the handbook. Yes, Nellie, thank you so much for your support of our show and for being an eager listener. And now we have our trivia challenge for the Great Escapes episode. The question was, what was the code name for the Dunkirk rescue? Such a great event in history. Well, one of our favorite listeners, Harbin Gould.
Yay, Harbin!
Yay, Harbin. He was the one that posted that it was called Operation Dynamo. That was the code name of the Dunkirk evacuation. The Miracle of Dunkirk, where 338,226 soldiers were rescued by over 800 volunteer vessels.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you, Harbin, and thank you, Nellie, for being great listeners to our show.
Woohoo!
Now, for today's trivia challenge, here's what you have to do. You want to like and follow our Facebook page at Remnant Stew Podcast, or like and share this episode post. Put your answer to the trivia challenge question in the comments of that post. The first person to do all that will be the winner and will be mentioned in our next episode of Remnant Stew. So, Leah, what is our trivia question today?
Okay, I tried to make this hard. I tried to make it not easily Googleable.
Okay.
Is that hard? It is now. Okay, so name the Christmas dinner tradition from the Orient, and it's a modern day tradition that involves an American-based franchise founded by a very ornery Southern gentleman with an honorary military title.
Oh, you gave it away too easily there.
You think so? Well, before we wrap up today's episode, we want to take a minute to thank all of you StewHeads out there that tune in and listen.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
We so appreciate the support you've given us as we began this adventure of the Remnant Stew podcast. We have so much fun doing this, and our first season has been amazing.
It really has been.
We're excited to keep going and bring you more and more wild and crazy stories in season 2.
This is Phil, and from all of us at Remnant Stew, we wish you and your families a safe and blessed Christmas.
So, as we say goodbye, or perhaps good riddance to the incredibly crazy year of 2020, we wish you health, comfort, peace, and prosperity for the new year. Please consider making kindness your New Year's resolution. And, of course, don't forget to always stay curious.